Hello and happy Monday, everyone. Josh's Severe Weather. Appreciate you joining me here this evening. A little bit later than usual. Had a lot to do this afternoon, but we're going to get rolling here with Major Hurricane Erin, which continues to track northwestward and is beginning to make the bend as expected to the east of the Bahamas. We do now have a tropical storm watch and a storm surge watch in effect for portions of the North Carolina coast, and in particular, the Outer Banks. While Hatteras has already been evacuated due to the fact that we're going to have a dangerous storm, even though it's not expected to make landfall here towards the middle of this week. We're going to talk about Hurricane Erin, what's going on now, what we're expecting, and what has changed in the forecast. And then another area to watch, which has the potential to be our next tropical storm towards the weekend, that will likely get the name Fernand. And that is the next area we need to be at least watching at this point until we know for sure. So if you are returning as a newer subscriber, welcome back. If you have not yet subscribed, well, you know the drill here. You can certainly subscribe. And that way you're going to get the latest daily updates from me here as long as we have a tropical system to talk about here. So I appreciate you joining me. We're going to get right to it here. And this is the official map from the National Hurricane Center. Hurricane Erin has winds of 140 miles per hour. The pressure at last check was 937 millibars, so a very strong system here, Category 4. It's possible it could be a little bit weaker. We're going to wait and see here with new aircraft about to get into the system. The one thing you're going to see, though, it has slowed down. It's now moving at 10 miles per hour, which is half the speed it was moving at the end of last week. And the reason why is it's coming around an area of high pressure, which is basically driven storms this direction, but the high is centered about here. And the storm motion is going to be faster on the north and south side of it over the wider parts, and over the narrower parts, it's going to be a little bit slower here. So until the system gets up in here, it is going to be accelerating, or it's going to be a little bit slower in its forward speed. So what that means is the storm's got more time to produce more dangerous surf, also a little bit more time for some uncertainty still in the forecast. We're going to talk about this next area to watch here, which over the next couple of days has just a 10% chance of developing. That may come up a little bit, a medium chance. This could end up being a high red area here in the next, I'd say, 12 hours. Probably not going to develop at least for the next couple of days based on the fact that it's pretty disorganized. But as it gets past 50 degrees west, that chance does climb. And a little bit different setup than what we saw with Hurricane Erin, but a similar potential path is what we're looking at down the road here. So until that system gets closer to forming, we are going to still have quite a bit of uncertainty. Here's a look currently at, and I'll reset this here. Here's a look at Hurricane Erin, powerful storm system spinning over the southwestern Atlantic, still producing tropical storm conditions over the Turks and Caicos Islands over here and the southeastern Bahamas. But it is going to be gradually pulling away here to the north and west. Now, if you look at the storm here, you can see that it's getting bigger and bigger in size. There are a few limits to the northern side here. We do have a little bit of, let me draw it on the screen here. We do have a little bit of wind shear out of the north, which I think personally may be weakening the system just a tiny bit here this evening, but still a very well-organized central dense overcast and a well-defined eye in the middle of it here. And you can see that the storm, which was moving more in this direction, has began its turn and will continue that turn here. Across the west of the western Atlantic, we do have a low pressure system here northwest of Bermuda that is heading slowly south. It will eventually fade into the sunset here as Erin takes over as our bigger growing storm. And we do have thunderstorms that are firing up over southeastern parts of North Carolina and across the central portion of Florida as well. And this is air mass thunderstorms out ahead of an area of a front that'll be moving down the coast here temporarily and stalling over the North Carolina, South Carolina low country here over the next couple of days. Here's another view of Hurricane Erin, and you can see a very well-defined storm system. A little bit of limitation, though, on the northern side with some of that wind shear here, but none of that problem on the southern side as it's still dumping quite a bit of rain here over the southeastern Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, and even portions of Hispaniola, in particular the northern coast of Haiti and the northern coast of the Dominican Republic. Lots of rain coming from this system, even though it hasn't officially made landfall, and it won't be making landfall on any of these land masses. Our visible image, as the sun goes down, you can see where the eye wall is firing off some intense thunderstorms here on the southeastern portion of the storm. The center does have clouds filling it. That doesn't mean it's not a powerful system. Sometimes the cirrus overcast gets in there and blocks the eye from clearing out. But typically, your most intense storms do have that cleared out eye, like we saw a couple of days ago. But I want you to notice is that the storm is growing in size. It's getting into a spot where, as it moves northward, it's called the beta effect. It's got room to grow more in size. And so the wind field's going to be expanding here. We also could be seeing another eye wall replacement beginning. That's common in stronger storms. What happens is the thunderstorm surrounding the eye wall, thunderstorms there get to a certain point where, in an effort to keep the pressure fairly equal, it's called equilibrium. What has to happen is these storms have to collapse, and then outside of it, a new area has to form. Typically, when that happens, we get weakening. And I do think, at least for the next maybe 18 to 24 hours, this storm system, when it gets up into here, it could be a little bit weaker. It's still going to be a major hurricane, but it may go down to category 3. After that, I do think we could be looking at some intensification again. And the reason why is that this dry air and the wind shear here on the northern side is expected to actually come down a little bit. And we will see the storm fight back like it has a few times already. So pretty interesting stuff to see. We don't typically get storms that are this strong quite this early in the season. Usually this happens at September, but this is our lucky year here, unfortunately. And it's going to be a long hurricane season, just from what I'm seeing, unfortunately. And that's not to scare people. It's just I've done this a long time, and I will tell you with confidence here that we are going to have several more storms. Question mark course is going to be where they end up going. Now you can see here that aircraft have come around and taken a look at the system. The last one that actually got into the storm did kind of a sampling of the mid and upper atmosphere, didn't actually penetrate the center of the storm. The next one going in, though, is en route, and that will be getting in here around 8 o'clock Eastern. I'm not waiting for that to come in, but I will update you on my community page and on my Facebook page with what it measures. In my opinion, I think it's going to find the pressures come up into the 940s, maybe even closer to 950. Just based on the fact that there's some dry air circulating in, the eye wall's beginning to go and replace itself once again, like it did a couple nights ago. And we do have some wind shear in from the north as well. That could be temporary. Once that eye wall replacement finishes up here later Tuesday night into early Wednesday, there may be one last round of strengthening as that comes through. We've seen a lot of rain in the U.S. Virgin Islands, over 4 inches in Charlotte, Amalie, and Christiansted's picked up a little over an inch. Puerto Rico's had a lot of rain as well, over 5 inches recorded in Palmarejo, Vega Baja, and a few inches as well. That is primarily in the higher elevations where that air is forced up, produces heavy rain. So we did see a little bit of flooding here, but fortunately kind of a close call and a close scrape at this point. Now you'll see we still have tropical storm warnings that are in effect here for the southeastern Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos as our wind field is growing. Now the plan is that this storm center, while the storm's going to grow more in size, is going to parallel the central Bahamas. So we do have a tropical storm watch there at this time. We don't have the warning just because it's more possible than likely. And then we should start to see winds coming down tomorrow in the southeast Bahamas and then tomorrow night in the central Bahamas. And we may get some gusty winds in the northwest Bahamas as well later tomorrow into tomorrow evening. After that, the storm is expected to curve. You can see there's still some wiggle room here because of that uncertainty, because of the fact that the storm will be growing. We do now have a tropical storm watch in effect for the Outer Banks. We also have a storm surge watch. I'm going to get a little more detail with that in a moment. And it's possible as this storm heads back out to sea, and even though it weakens and grows, it's possible Bermuda all the way over here could see some tropical storm force wind as this comes around and gets it from the west here. And that would be probably on Thursday. So we may have a tropical storm watch get posted for Bermuda as well. We may see a tropical storm warning for portions of the Outer Banks with those stronger winds expected Wednesday night and Thursday. So that warning could get issued at some point tomorrow. We'll have to wait and see on that. Here you can see on the forecast, it hasn't changed a whole lot from earlier, a little bit of a shift west. The window has tightened up, and we are going to eventually see this weaken down below major hurricane intensity in about 72 hours. Still going to be a big storm with a lot of wind and a lot of surf with it as it comes by to the north and west of Bermuda. But at this point, there are no main land masses that are really in the path of the system or in the cone of uncertainty. Now, don't get too obsessed with the cone of uncertainty because that's where the center of the storm may go. If the center of the storm is only 100 to 200 miles offshore, it'll be big enough to produce those stronger winds. Same goes for Atlantic Canada, maybe for Bermuda here as well, and for the central Bahamas. But at this point, it is finding a way to thread the needle, it appears. As we take a look here at the official forecast, as we head into the overnight hours, still expected to be a category 4. I personally think it'll be a 3, just looking at the trends of what we're seeing here. Tomorrow, 130 miles per hour. That could be a little bit too high. But then, in my opinion, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, we may try to get back to 4, at least a high 3 at that point. There's going to be a little bit of a window where the wind shear does cut down a little bit and the storm begins to grow. And the models are showing some lowering pressure as well. Now, what I want to show you here as we zoom in, I'm going to actually measure this out for you all to see. This is a cool feature from Zoom Earth. It's a free website. You do have an app that you can subscribe to, which I've chosen to do. But if you go to Hatteras here, which is the point that sticks out the most here on the East Coast, at least for the Southeast, and you take it from here to the forecast track, you'll see it's right at 200 miles. Now, on the western side of this, the distance from the coast is just under 100 miles. So if this does continue to shift westward, the westward part of the cone of uncertainty, we could see this storm come to within 100 miles of the coast. Do I think that's going to get that close? Probably not. But I would say less than 200 miles might be a good bet. Maybe it's 150. We'll have to wait and see. But that is going to be the area that gets the closest approach. And the timeline on that here is going to be early in the day on Thursday, sometime between 5 a.m. and about lunchtime on Thursday, if this is correct. It's possible it could be a little bit later if the system tries to slow down a little bit. So that is something to keep in mind here. I don't think we're going to see, the main central portion of the system make its way onshore, but we will certainly get rain bands and wind and perhaps some pretty strong tropical storm gusts and certainly some high surf as well. From north of Duck up into Virginia and up the East Coast, this will be a storm that you can wave to as it goes out to sea. It should not directly impact you, but it will be dangerous surf, and we could have some coastal flooding all the way up the East Coast here into coastal New England, here into the Gulf of Maine, and certainly into Atlantic Canada as well. Now, on the same side here, or on the other side, here's Bermuda, a much smaller target, but one that's taken a lot of storms on the chin. And if you measure from the west end of Bermuda, you will see that the official track is actually 450 miles from you in Bermuda. It comes down a little bit to 350. And if this system finds a way to get back on the right side of the cone, which I don't think is super likely, as it's coming up here on early Thursday, it'll be within about 360 miles of the island. And then it could pass as close as 190 miles, maybe 200 miles north of the island here sometime Thursday night or Friday morning. So just to give you an idea of what's at stake here, what's at play. But the system is going to lose some tropical characteristics over the weekend. It's going to beat up the coastal waters here of the Avalon Peninsula. Eventually, it could impact Greenland, Iceland, maybe even Northwest Europe. But we'll have to see on that, because at that point, there's another system that moves in behind it that could absorb a lot of it, but certainly bring the high waves with it. So what you'll notice here for our ensembles is very clearly the track shifted west over time and continued west. Now that westward shift has come to a relative stop at this point. It could come a little bit farther to the west, but you'll see the curve is actually more severe, and it's been trending more to the south and east, more to the right, which is not great news for Bermuda, but is certainly the news you'd want to hear if you're in Newfoundland and Nova Scotia, because the model envelope continues to push more off to your south and east. So a very severe bend coming here. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the area of high pressure to the east of the system, this big subtropical ridge, is a little farther west than where it was expected to be a couple days ago. But then the next trough coming in a little bit late will be a little bit stronger. So that causes just a more severe turn at this point. After the system leaves, though, a ridge builds back in, and we're going to be watching that for the next one here. Here's a look at the trend of our ensembles, just to give you an idea, not the trend, but the forecast spread here, the track density. And you can see none of our ensembles make landfall, but they do come to maybe as close as 100 miles just off the coast of Hatteras and to within 150 to 200 miles of Bermuda here. As far as we go up to New England, there's nothing that shows any credible threat to New England, but maybe a couple of 100 miles offshore if this finds a way to stay on the western side. Same goes for the Avalon Peninsula. We do have some ensembles that look more threatening, a couple that go over Sable Island here. The timeline on this is going to end up being, believe it or not, Sunday morning. But then the spread grows considerably, and we're not at least looking at any kind of direct hit on any land. So, as remarkable as it is, this storm threatening so much land, but it may make its way without any sort of landfall whatsoever, coming to within 100 to 200 miles of several island chains and maybe some land masses. But really, that's all at this point. So, not uncommon, but the fact that so many people are being impacted by a storm that's never going to make landfall just goes to show you just can't write everything off, and the coast is never fully clear. All right, so here are our latest models. The 18Z, see a couple models are a little closer to the Outer Banks, but pretty good confidence here through 120 hours. Then, of course, things are going to spread out beyond that. Our ensembles are all pretty much in agreement on this. Some wobbles are possible, but overall, the bend begins to go back away from the coast here Wednesday night before it even gains enough latitude to make it past Myrtle Beach. Here's a look at the European ensemble. Again, you see the bend away from the coast starts at about 60 hours, so early in the day on Thursday. And then our intensity forecast, there's going to be some back and forth for a few days, and then we'll see gradual weakening by the middle of the week. And then this system should be a Category 1 by Friday and a powerful extratropical system over the weekend. Here's a ship's model, which confirms that as well. The chance for this to rapidly intensify, that window is closing. There's one little opportunity. I do want you to just kind of keep your in the back mirror here between 24 and 48 hours in the rear view mirror. Water temperatures are warm and the wind shear is coming down at this point when the system gets up into here. So there is a possibility this could go through just one more round of strengthening. But after that, the wind shear picks up, the temperatures of the water drop off, and the humidity drops off substantially once we get up into here. So the storm gets bigger, but the core of the wind will be less intense at that point. And you can see here on the GFS, the pressure comes up a little bit here through tomorrow. It's showing 950s, which is a Category 3. But then it's showing another round of strengthening back into the 930s to near 940 here Wednesday night as the storm makes its nearest approach to the Outer Banks. It's growing in size as well. Take a look at how the wind field grows. Eventually, we get to a point here Friday night and Saturday while it's over the North Atlantic that the system is going to weaken and open up quite a bit, but it will be a bigger system when it does that. I'm not going to spend a whole lot more time on that, but I do want to show you the latest wave forecast here. And you can see the European has increased the wind forecast and wave forecast for the Outer Banks. Swells are going to hit parallel or perpendicular to the coast directly out of the east. And we could see wave heights that are over 20 feet hitting Hatteras, which will cause significant property damage. That's why they've evacuated it. Farther up the coast, we could see winds and waves where the combined swells get over 10 feet, maybe 15 feet, mainly offshore. When we get to Cape Cod and the islands, though, those numbers do come down, and we'll have to keep an eye on the next system as well. Definitely dangerous to be out at the beaches. Winds at the waters could get over 40 miles per hour, seas up to 13 feet. This could even come up if our forecast continues to shift to the west. You'll see this graphic is a little bit older. Here, though, is where our storm surge forecast is in effect. Up to 3 feet of storm surge could inundate coastal areas, including Myrtle Beach. In fact, that watch basically indicates that folks from Cape Lookout to Duck, so the entire Outer Banks, Emerald Isle, those areas are going to see storm surge levels of 2 to 4 feet, which gets you up halfway to your first story of your home. Up to 3 feet is expected, 1 to 3 feet from the South Santee River up through the Grand Strand to Bald Head Island, all the way up around the Cape Lookout from Cape Fear, around the Outer Banks to the Inner Banks, including the Neuse and Bay Rivers, Pamlico Sound, Pamlico and Pungo River. Not quite the Albemarle Sound, but we could see a little bit of flooding there. Right on up into Virginia, all the way up to Paramore Island. And that does include the lower opening of the Chesapeake Bay. That includes the James River, the peninsula. That includes the York River. Doesn't quite get to the Rappahannock, but it's getting there. But we could see some coastal flooding here and some storm surge on top of that as well, especially at times of high tide. That includes the Bay Bridge Tunnel here as well that connects Virginia Beach to Accomack County here in Virginia. Or not Accomack, Northampton County, right below Accomack. All right, so that's all for Erin for the moment. I'll keep you posted on any changes here. We're not going to be done with Erin, though. We start to see our next system here, which is pretty disorganized compared to what Erin was this time last week, but it does have some room to grow here. You're going to see that there is some wind shear out ahead of this system, and there's some dry air as well. So we have southwesterlies aloft in the face of this, which will create just a not very favorable environment for rapid strengthening, but there could be some intensification over time as this gets closer to the islands. This dry air is going to be in the way as well. That is common this time of the year. But the area that we're going to watch for development is this portion of the wave. It's actually not this area that looks very ominous here on infrared satellite. That, though, is just a flare up of storms. It's at way too low a latitude to develop. But this portion here, models indicate it's going to take some time and it will gain some latitude. But when it gets up into this area, has a possibility of developing. And that could be as soon as Friday or maybe even into Saturday. There's a wave behind it we're going to have to keep an eye on as well. Models aren't really developing it yet. They're waiting for the first system to form. But I would keep an eye on that. I'd keep an eye on every wave coming off, even though they may take some time to develop. They are certainly some potential hazards down the road here. Here's a look at the water vapor image, just to show you that we do, in fact, have that dry air in the way here. We do have this upper level low right here, but it is retrograding from east to west. So ahead of the upper low coming around it, we have this southwesterly flow, which I had mentioned. That is going to be in the face of this wave here, and that's going to keep it looking kind of ragged. But this upper low is going to move west and follow in the path of Erin, and so will this wave. Erin wants to take everyone with her. She's a big bad girl, and she wants to bring all of her friends out to the movies here. So don't quote me on that, please. But eventually things could start turning a little more favorable over time when we get things into here. It's just going to take some time at this point. This wave here looks very impressive. It looks a lot like what Erin looked like when it came off the coast. But again, things aren't exactly welcoming for a wave of this size to be able to hang on much longer once it moves out over the water. If we show you here the possibility of tropical storm genesis, this is through Friday. You can see very clearly where Erin is. That is it. But then as we go into the weekend, and in particular, as we go into Saturday, we start to see some probabilities here for a potential tropical system, including Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and the surrounding waters, very close to where Erin passed, a little south of where Erin passed. It's not a great chance. That pink indicates maybe a 20% chance, but it is a chance for a tropical storm. And then that chance does begin to grow very close to where Erin was yesterday. That would be Sunday into early on Monday. Here's Monday and early Tuesday. The chance continues to climb. I don't know what this is. It's probably not tropical, but this is the area we're going to be monitoring. And then as we get into next Tuesday and Wednesday, you will see that there's a chance for something tropical anywhere from Cuba and Florida all the way up to Cape Cod and Bermuda. So what this shows is that we've got many different possibilities of a storm track somewhere in the Western Atlantic, but it's way too soon to pin it down. The greatest aggregation of model and ensembles takes it to the west of Bermuda and very close to where Erin's going to be going here tonight and tomorrow. And then you can see we have some possibilities going into the Eastern Gulf. We have possibilities coming up through the warm Gulf Stream, and the uncertainty level is going to grow beyond that. But at this point, I'm likely to think that the East Coast is going to be favored, but we can't ignore this threat to Florida or even the Central and Eastern Gulf either. Just something to keep in mind at this point. Here's a look at where the ensemble locations are. This is Erin, of course. You can see here, this will be getting close to the islands here on the 21st, which is Thursday in the afternoon, and then may pass over the islands Friday sometime during the afternoon or at night, or could form farther to the north. It's a pretty big spread, to be honest with you all. There are lots of possibilities when the spread is this big, and it will only grow. And until the storm forms, and we try to figure out what part of the wave is actually going to form, is it going to be this part or this part? We can't really say with confidence where exactly it's going to go. We could just give you a window at that point. You're going to see that the window continues to climb and grow in size. And we have a lot of possibilities here with a recurve nearer to the east of Bermuda, but we also have possibilities that keep the Bahamas and Florida and the southeast coast in play. So awfully soon, by the way, the wave behind it doesn't develop in the next week, but some of these ensembles do hang on to it and bring it across the Caribbean towards the Southern Gulf. beyond that. So just something to keep in your back pocket at this point. Again, way too soon to really get specific. But the bottom line is we've got more waves coming off of Africa and a lot more possibilities. So the system is, or the season is still quite young. That was the AI. Here's the European operational. Again, we see a pretty big spread here with several ensemble members recurving nearer to the west of Bermuda, even one to the east of it, several going up towards the Bahamas, some going into the Northern Caribbean and going through the islands and continuing on into the Gulf. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. Officially, unofficially, because it's not even an invest yet, it would be 99L if it does. I will show you what the Google model is showing at this point. It's got a recurve near, very close to where Erin moved, but then recurving a lot quicker, very close to Bermuda, by the way, as a hurricane, and then heads up towards Newfoundland. Not nearly as severe a turn as what we're going to see with Erin here in the next few days. So that is the Google model. The European ensemble spread is massive, though. You can see here we have probabilities that have it not developing. We have some going up into hurricane intensity, some major hurricane. We have probably 70% of the ensembles going by along or east of the East Coast, some towards Bermuda, about 20% over Florida and 10% heading into the Gulf. So a lot of uncertainty, as you might imagine, but something that we have to just keep an eye on at this point. And then the GFS ensemble muddies the water even more here, as you can see. We've got solutions in the Gulf. We have solutions coming up towards the Carolinas, and we have several solutions recurving and maybe affecting Atlantic Canada. The timeline on this is going to be between 8 and 10 days from now. So a lot can change in 8 days. A lot can change in 3 days. So let's wait for the system to try to form before we try to get too specific with the forecast. Right now, as you saw on my thumbnail graphic, the spread is kind of like this. So, and that's about the best I'm going to be able to do until we see something like this trying to form. So that's where we stand at this point. I could show you operational models real quick. By the way, the Euro's not going to be right here. Don't worry about this. That's just way too strong. But you can see here where our wave is trying to get going here. This is Wednesday night, so 2 nights from now. None of our models have it actually developing, but the GFS indicates that southern piece may try to form, whereas the European says the northern piece may try to form. And that's the difference between a recurve and something that could be a legitimate threat. The icon's kind of in between the two. Now, we take this forward by 24 hours to Thursday evening. European still hasn't really closed off a low just yet, but it's east of the islands. The GFS is no longer closing it off, but still has it there. The icon model is still fighting, but they're all, generally speaking, in this direction here. As we move along 24 hours to Friday evening, you're going to see the European is moving by just north here and hasn't really developed the system yet. Remember, this is where Erin became a Category 5. And so while this is very unlikely to see something like that happen again, now the waters are cooler, it is an area where we have to watch because it's already happened once. It could happen again. Here's the GFS, again, not showing anything closed off. The icon's a little bit closer, moving right over those northern leeward islands. And then one day further, you'll see finally, as the system moves north of Puerto Rico, the European begins to develop it. The GFS also begins to develop it in the same area. And the icon is no longer holding a closed off isobar, meaning it's not really anything more than a tropical depression. Finally, we're going to go on here to 6 days from now, getting us to Sunday night. And you'll see tropical storm on the European recurving at this point. GFS a little weaker, going over the Turks and Caicos. The icon model starting to lose it. And then you're going to see the GFS no longer looks like it's heading for the Gulf, but could be heading for Florida and up the East Coast. The European, though, is already beginning the recurve. The icon doesn't really know that it's out there, and the AI forecast is already moving it along. So a lot's gonna still have to be ironed out at this point. But I have gone about 30 minutes, so I'm going to wrap it up here real quick with giving God all the glory as a Christian. While we do not look at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporary, but the things which are not seen are eternal. That's Paul's second letter to the church of Corinth, 2 Corinthians 4:18, NKJV, New King James Version. That's the word of God for the people of God. And I talked about my faith a little bit here yesterday in my video, in that all I was doing was putting my faith in the things that I could see in front of me. I mean, that's natural. I'm a scientist. So whenever I'm studying science, I want to see the facts, right? I want logic. I don't want somebody to tell me something that that can't be proven in front of me, right? But what I've learned to believe is that there are things that we're not supposed to understand or know, but there are things that we can believe in and get behind. And as soon as I read about Jesus and the resurrection and all the miracles done, um, I realized that I had a greater purpose. The purpose was to live out my life and do my best work the way God intended me to do. And it may not be what God intends you to do. And then to share that faith with others, and then to embrace the fact that eternal life is forever. And I'm not supposed to be on that side until it's my time. Folks, we serve a wonderful God, and God is there. He wants us to follow him. He wants us to understand that there are things that just cannot be explained with logic or science, but there are signs that miracles do and will continue to happen. And through Jesus Christ, those miracles are wonderful. They're great. God is perfect. Jesus Christ is perfect. We're not supposed to be. We don't need to be, but we do need to repent and turn to him, especially in our darkest times. And that's what I did when I was about 30. And I encourage you to do the same if you haven't already. No pressure on you. It's just something that I wanted to encourage you with here this evening. And that is giving God all the glory here. So I will catch up with you all tomorrow. Have a wonderful night. God bless.